Hi, I'm Twyla.
And I'm Natalie.
And this is Twyla and Natalie.
That's right. And we're going to discuss today the joys, the pitfalls of being a grown woman.
I like that. Today in particular, I'm really going to enjoy our question.
Yeah.
Every week we ask a question, usually because it's something that comes up in our own lives, and we like to talk about those things.
Yeah, this is really therapy for us.
I'm kind of concerned that we're going to hit on these points well enough that we run out of things to talk about.
So
then we're going to come, like, eventually we're going to have questions like, what kind of turkey do you like at Thanksgiving?
No.
And then we're going to have to find something else to do.
I doubt that. We each have a fair amount of drama and things to discuss in our lives to tackle that I don't think we're going to run out. And plus, then we have listeners chiming in and giving us things they'd like to chat about.
That's true. So today's question, I think, is very of the moment. Hey, are you always late?
Nope.
Really?
Are you surprised by this? Now, today I was late, but as I had told you, I was having a little bit of a car issue.
Yeah.
And it was 10 minutes, and I let Twyla know right away I'm going to be about 10 minutes late. And really, I pulled up at I was 7 minutes late. But for the most part, I am proud to say no. I'm very, and I don't know if it's because I'm a Virgo. When I think about it, you know what I think it really is more about?
Mm-hmm.
I was that kid who sat after school for 45 minutes because someone forgot to pick me up.
Yeah, that was me always. My dad, it was because it was the time of day when my dad would sleep. My dad worked nights.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then my mom didn't drive. So if I did an after school activity, I had to wait till my dad woke up to come get me. And then there was,
and you have no way to call anybody.
Yeah, well, and the worst part was always like when there's always a point where a caring adult comes and says to you, like, do you need a ride? Did your mom come? Is your dad coming? And
then they all get up in your business about your family life.
Right, and they are, and they can't get up in your business about your family life. My mother is a classic old school black mama. It was what happens in our house stays in our house. That is none of their business. So I could be laying on the side of the road with like a gaping wound, and her instructions were to be like, tell them you're fine and walk home. That was always the key. So, there's that point where you're like, no, it's fine. They'll be here. And then I remember a couple times that he totally missed the window even for him. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, the building is closed now.
Yeah. Is anyone going to come? It can create some anxiety and so many feelings about it. But I think the combination of that, and I cannot vividly recall a ton from my young childhood, but I can vividly recall what it felt like to be picked up so late or to be brought to school. I remember getting detention in high school. I had an aunt who took care of us for the most part, and she got us to school from school. And I was so late to school that I would just skip the class because I figured out if I skipped the class, it was actually less of a penalty. It took them longer to catch on than as if I were tardy.
Right.
And I was late so much, and it really did affect my ability to do well in that class. It was math class. I'm just remembering this now, and I suck at math today. So I can remember what that's like. And so I never wanted to do it to my children when they were growing up, and even with my stepkids, to put them in that position. And at the same time, I grew up in a cult. I grew up in Scientology, and I worked for their branch, which is similar to the military in some ways, that it's very regimented and you are on time.
Right. So you were like the schedules and things like that.
Yeah, it was very scheduled. You did not vary from it. You had responsibility to be there. You were there. So that discipline, I can say that's probably a good thing that came out of it was I became very disciplined and conscious of other people's time, because being late has a domino effect.
Yeah, that's true.
Someone else could have something going on afterward. If you're late to something, if you're all meeting for happy hour and you're running 15 minutes late, okay, not that, not as big a deal. If it's understood, this is more kind of open house, come when you can. Dinner's different. Now people are having to wait. People might have gotten sitters. I think it depends. You got to know your audience.
Okay, so, and I think that kind of changes over time. I would say in my younger days, I was probably only late for very specific reasons. And I'll be honest, they were all very sort of sneaky and strategic. Like I would be late to happy hour because then I didn't have to buy things.
Sure.
Because I didn't have a lot of money. So if we showed up for happy hour, my mom I ain't got money for drinks. I mean, my fake ID would get me in the door, but I didn't have the money to pay for the drinks.
Yeah.
So I would show up just late enough that, first round's already gone through. You know, like I don't have to worry about it, or
Sure.
I could kind of fake through it.
Uh-huh.
I was not a driver, so you had to be on time for things like buses because they don't wait for you
That's true.
ever.
Yeah. And it's a
So-
big inconvenience when you miss it.
Yeah, and if you miss it, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna be 15 minutes late. I'm gonna be an hour and a half late. 'Cause now I
Mhm.
have to, I missed this bus, I missed this connection, blah 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 blah. So, and I would say the only other place I was always sort of strategically late. I'll be honest. I was always late to things where I wanted to like make an entrance. I'll admit it. I was enough of a diva back then that I wanted to make an entrance. If 20 of us are meeting for dinner at the at the dining hall, which I'll be honest, that was kind of routine for us to have like 10 or 15 of us eating at like 2 or 3 tables.
Wow.
You wouldn't be first? No.
See, that's so funny, and that's where we're opposite. I'll, talk about, I have such an open personality. I'll tell you about anything one-on-one, or even doing our show. I'll talk about my vagina. I'll talk about whatever it is. I'm very open.
Yeah.
But I don't want people to look at me.
Okay.
So I would never work to make a grand entrance.
Oh,
I would plan to be there early.
No, I am always like, and I would say this, when it's people I know, like when it's my people and stuff, I have no problem being like, I walk in and hands up like, hey.
Oh, see, I don't even
that's
like
me.
having to walk through a restaurant to get to the backside outside. Say you're sitting lakeside and you have to go through the restaurant to get to the back.
Yeah.
Or the outdoor seating. Even that, I just don't like that.
Really?
Yeah. And we chatted about this a little bit. I quit drinking. And so, I've been sober for a while now, and drinking is something I did to make these social situations less awkward.
True.
And I'm finding the drinking actually didn't help.
Yeah. Because it just, it
It made it more awkward.
Yeah, it softens the edges, but heightens the anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a really good point. It did. And
Yeah.
I'm interestingly finding now I'm not having actually as much as that anxiety. It's more
Because you're more in control of the circumstance.
yeah, because I'm more in control of it, which is actually a good thing.
Now, so you're never fashionably late?
No, not on purpose. I really have a thing, there are things, parties are kind of an open, there's a window depending on the kind of party it is. If it's somebody's having a party somewhere and there's not a set timing for things.
Okay.
It's not a home party where there's going to be a presentation. There's nothing you're going to be interrupting. There's no set meal time.
Oh, wait, you that's an excellent point. I'm always late to home parties. If I go to them, I'm late. I'm not gonna lie. And we had a discussion about this a little bit earlier. I don't enjoy parties where you try to sell me things because I don't like to buy things. So if you invite me to your, whatever it is, product party, and it's at somebody's house that's a friend of mine, I'm going to show up. I ain't showing up from time for the presentation because I'll be honest, because I'm going to be stupid. I'm going to sit in the corner and pretend to look at the things and then get bored because I know I'm not buying any of the things. I'm going to wind up chatting to so-and-so in the corner and making it awkward. Or, and I don't drink that much, so I'm not going to get tanked up on wine and then accidentally buy something. I'm useless. So I always show up. I'm good for showing up like right after the presentation part is probably done, where
Sure.
people are trying things
Well,
on.
but if you let your host know ahead of time, hey, I'd love to come, but just so you know, I'll probably be there after that's already done. Then
they
you
already know me.
But then you're not late because that's your agreement. That's when
Everybody-
you're going to be there.
Everybody knows I'm so bad about this that my one girlfriend just leaves the back door open, so I don't have to walk in through the presentation. I just come in through the kitchen. Like, hey, I just sneak in and sit down in the corner. So I am good for being late for those kind of things.
Yeah, there are, I think you have to use judgment at the same time. There are things that, they're on a 1 to 10 as far as the consequences of being late for it. When we talk about, are you always late? I think these are the people who are habitually late to things that they really need to be on time for.
Okay.
Where you have a set time, like you are meeting for dinner. People have gotten sitters. You have a reservation. Some restaurants won't even seat you until
the
you're
whole
all
party
there. And I think it's a whole separate thing when it comes to our children who are at our mercy when it comes to getting them to places. And again, I was that kid who walked in. Oh my gosh, I'm having an ephany, Twyla.
You have an aha moment. I love this.
Maybe that's why I don't like to walk into places where there's a bunch of people and they notice my arrival. Oh my gosh, I think that's why.
Okay, now you gotta tell it.
Because my family always got me late to things.
Oh yeah.
So when I arrived, everybody turns their head and there's all this attention on me. And I felt horrible. I was mortified. I interrupted the class. I would get in trouble for interrupting the teacher.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I wonder if that is why. But
That
when
would
you
make
think
sense.
about it logically, people are not turning to look at me when I'm walking in anywhere, but I have this underlying fear and anxiety.
So I feel like they are.
That they
turning
are.
to look at me.
Yeah. But that's what you're going for. You're making grand entrances.
Even when I'm not going for it, I feel like, I probably bring it on myself. I have, for heaven's sake, I have like glitter Chelsea rain boots. So, if it's rain outside, you're going to see my feet. 90% of the time in the real world, I have some variation of an afro on my head. So, yeah.
You're very noticeable. And that's something that, I need to work on and that I'm working on. And as the longer I'm sober, the more I'm actually recognizing it, how much it actually bugs me, but it shouldn't. And I need to get over that because it's to the level of being mortifying.
Okay. Now talk to me about what happens when being late is out of your control and you're still late. Because see, we have other people in our lives.
That kind of rarely happens because I will work to make sure, that I'm coordinating. You're talking family or like other friends and you're riding with them?
Well, yeah, like I have two schools that usually happen. Like I have my immediate family, like me, my husband, my kids.
Sure.
We're pretty good. Like we try to and we are not first to arrive people. We like to wait until there's a couple, like we time it so that we probably come like 10, 15 minutes after things get going.
Sure. But then that's acceptable for an open party, what I would call an open party.
Right. We were never we're always early or right on time for things. Like we're early people. Like we'd rather show up early to a reservation or show up early to an event or something like that when it comes to like a bigger, more formal thing. Now I have two sisters.
Sure.
And God bless them. I love them. And I'll get emails from them after this. But my one sister is chronically like on time. Like she is girls, let's go.
Yeah.
I am usually, if I'm running late, it's usually something completely out of my control. Like the plane didn't land until it landed, that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. Well, in that situation, yeah.
But my older sister is, we essentially have called her Black Barbie her whole life. and Barbie's not going anywhere until all hair is in place properly, all makeup is in place properly. So we will routinely say, okay, we're going someplace. And, we'll say we're going someplace at like 6. And she'll go, okay. And that means at 4, she needs to check out. If she hasn't checked out at 4, we are not getting there at 6 because she needs to do a whole routine. Yeah. It involves like laying out the clothes, ironing the clothes, finding the makeup, attaching the jewelry, getting the shoes, getting the handbag, getting
sure.
It's a whole process. And mind you, she's got it down to a science by now, but it's still a lengthy routine.
When there's nothing wrong with that as long as you leave your window to do that and get where you need to be on time.
True. And we all suffer from what I think is pure narcissism on our part. We'll put on the first outfit and go, I'm not as cute in this as I could be. And then we'll change it 15 times and then put on the same outfit and then walk out the door.
Which again is fine because really I think what we're talking about, Twyla, it's not the process you go through to get there. It's that you get there on time. We all know ourselves. We know our process. We know how much time you should be leaving. When you're late, you don't. It's a lack of planning. Majority of the time, it's within our control. If I know, okay, I have to have the kids somewhere at say 5:30, and I know that's in the middle of rush hour, I'm going to build in that time, whether there's traffic or not, that there could be. I'm going to leave a buffer to make sure they get where they need to be on time. Because when you talk about with kids too, you're getting into like a life lesson that's what they will take forward.
Yeah.
At least with your sisters, it's just you guys being adults and,
Yeah. Well, she's kind of always been like that. God love her, but
but she's probably had people who made it okay.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's just her.
Yeah.
And she's going to be late.
That's what she does. Everybody knows
You've
if I'm getting
enabled her.
Yeah, that's true. And to be honest, I feel like I shifted my behavior in turn. So because she takes a long time to get ready and I always sort of equal parts thought, that's great for you, but I can't possibly take that on.
Sure.
I would do the exact opposite. So when we're getting ready to go someplace, she takes 2 hours, I take 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, Twyla, make it. You're not wearing that. And I'll go, but I'm ready to go. I'm
That's right. And you got to build in that extra time for the criticism and to actually change.
Yeah, they'll be like, but that's got mustard on it. I'm like, but the dress is like multicolored. You can't see it.
Blends.
Who cares? Yeah.
When I think, with all of my kids in raising them, I've gotten them into the habit and to understand my process, which is if I say we are leaving at 12:45, we are leaving at 12:45. That means you need to have your shoes on and be ready to walk out the door. And, especially, when I became a stepmom, they were new. This was something that was new to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I gave them a lot of grace in the beginning and then said, okay, when I say we're leaving at 12:45, you are old enough to get yourself ready and be standing at the door or close by ready to walk out. I'm not going to come upstairs and go, it's time to go, and you have to shut off the TV, find your phone, where are my socks? No, we don't do that.
Now it's going to be like pulling out the driveway. Kids are running, trying to get to the doors and flung open.
I have threatened to leave them.
My husband will back out. Like he'll go get in the van and start backing out.
Yeah.
And you'll come out like, and the kids will be like, Mom, run. I'm like, your daddy is not going anywhere without me.
Twyla, I have started Thanksgiving meals with family not there.
Okay.
Because when I say we are eating at 3:00, we are eating at 3:00.
Okay, no, that's perfect. Let's unpack that, because there is one area where people are chronically late at with big formal occasions like holiday dinners and particularly weddings, where somehow, because it's a wedding and because they spent all this money and because you're now sort of obligated to be a part of this process for the day, you will sit in your finery and your Spanx and your tights and your uncomfortable shoes and your uncomfortable undergarments. And it's like, but the wedding was supposed to start at 3:00. It is now, 3:27. And I don't know how there is a tradition, at least in many of the black weddings that I've gone to that involve black people in them, where it's bad luck to get married while the hands of the clock are going down. So you'll notice that a lot of weddings are set for the half hour so that the hands of the clock are going up. And if they are late, they will wait until that clock goes back to the down again. So I have been at weddings that are supposed to start at 2:30, and because they were running late, the earliest the wedding is going to start is 3:30, because they don't want the bad luck of the hands winding down.
Wow.
When they're getting married. Oh, do you know how many times I've sat through that? How many times I've sat through that? And then I've been through, how many times have we been to like a reception where nothing started on time, or because we were waiting on the couple, they didn't plan for how long the photos actually take or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you just kind of like twiddling your thumbs, or
you
eat like 12
I
blocks
think that's
of cheese.
Rude. Now, if it's, I understand it, especially if it's cultural. But even then you better work even harder to make sure it starts on time.
Yeah,
so
like
your guests aren't sitting there. So I guess I still would say for me, that's rude.
Oh, no, I think it's incredibly rude. I'm like, and especially if listen, I don't believe in spending all this money on weddings. We can talk about that on another day. But if you're going to spend money on a wedding, spend money on the things that matter to the people who are now paying for gifts or coming out all this way to see you. Like, make sure the food is plentiful.
Well, these people, many of them had to get a sitter. Now that's an extra hour on the clock.
Yes. And you know what? I'll play with the sitter. I don't need one anymore because my kids are old enough. But when I needed a sitter, I did not play, and I paid well. And to be honest, if you pay well for your sitter, which means you're paying above average rate, you will make sure that you are on time. You will make sure you get back on time.
That's
because
right.
You're
you
not
don't
trying
to piss her off.
Yeah, and you don't want to go too far over that line of how much money you got to pay, because then it becomes cost prohibitive to go out if you're paying as much to the sitter as you were to pay for dinner.
And again, it's a domino effect. You have these guests at the wedding. Some may or may not have plans afterwards for something. Some, you don't know. It just works best in the world if we agree on a time that we all stick to it.
Okay, now I feel like I used to be more of a late person, but not purposefully. It's just more like circumstances would happen, and I'd be like, I'm so sorry, I'm 5 minutes late, especially because I'm infamous for getting lost.
Well, and 5 minutes, again, if you're showing up to, it depends on what it is.
Yeah.
I think it's socially, there's kind of kind of a little bit of a grace period within there of a few minutes. You're not walking in the door at exactly that time.
Now,
but there are things like school, for example, or games that are starting where, you need to be there.
Now, is there anywhere in your life in particular that you just let yourself be late?
I
have that.
You do? Gosh.
Proudly.
I don't think so. I think if it's, again, if it's an open party where there's not say the party starts at 1, I'm not going to show up at 1. I'll show up at maybe 1:30 unless I have somewhere else I have to be after, or I'm going to need to leave early. Then I'll show up at 1 so I can spend more time with the people hosting the party.
Okay.
But unless it's something where I know for certainty, say I'm going to go over to my girlfriend's house, and I've had this happen even recently. And I say, okay, well, why don't I meet you there at 1? But I already know because she's told me. I'll say, well, what do you have going on today? And she'll say, you know what? I have an open day. I'm excited to have you over. Let's just sit outside, get some sun, and we're just chatting and catching up. And say I'm in the middle of something at home and I kind of really want to wrap it up. Usually it involves vacuuming. I got to vacuum. Got to have that house vacuumed. And I can finish it in 10 minutes, but it's going to make me 15 minutes late. you know, I'll reach out and go, hey, you know, I'm going to be about 15 minutes late because I'm going to finish this. Now, if it's, say, I'm meeting her and some friends for lunch and we have a set time, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to drop the vacuum, which is going to kill me on the inside.
Right, but you're going.
But I'm going to go and make
time.
sure I'm time.
Okay.
What do you always, or where do you give yourself the most grace to be late?
Okay, I'll be perfectly honest. This can only happen in a 2-parent or a 2-adult household.
So without children?
No, children are very much a part of the equation.
Okay.
If we have a sporting thing and my husband can take the child to the sporting thing ahead of me, I will show up as late as possible to the sporting event.
But you're not late. The kid's there on time, right?
No. See, the kid is on time. Yeah. I'm late because I have missed I've probably missed a good half or fourth of the game or something like that.
Sure.
I routinely show up late to my kids' ball games, and then I will sit in with the families, and they'll be like, "Oh, hey," and I'll be like, "Hey, how you doing? What's the score?" Like,
no, I think that's completely acceptable because the kid is there on time. It's
Right.
their dang game.
Right, they're there.
It's not your game.
Yeah, but remember, this goes back to the whole, like, you know, helicopter life that I live of, you know, I'm not here to share that moment with you, even though I've seen this moment like 3,000 times
No,
now.
but if your kid knows too, hey, dad's going to take you. I'm going to come halfway through.
Oh, no, so we have to have a negotiation because, and mind you, we set this up this way, and I purposely wanted it to be this way.
Because a lot of times these games, they practice before, so you have to have them there 20 to 30 minutes prior to game time.
Right, and sometimes you're committing, like, on a night of an average, like, tweens baseball game or something, you're committing to like 2.5 hours of just sitting.
Oh my God.
Right. So I mean, we haven't, but I always wanted my kids to like miss my presence at things because we're there and we're doing this as a family.
Yeah.
So now that I'm at the point where I'm like, I want to opt out a little, we have to negotiate. So I had told my son the other day, I don't want to come to your whole game. And he's like, but I would like you to be there. And I'm like, but you don't really need me to be there.
Well, I'd like you to never lie and clean the house.
Well, well, we had an old school like negotiation. So he said, I want you to go to the whole game. I said, I'm not coming to the whole game. He goes, okay, 1 hour and then you can leave. And I said, less than an hour and I get to come late.
Yeah.
And he goes, how late? I said, no later than third inning. And he goes, deal, I can accept that.
Yeah, see, but you're actually then not late, Twyla.
No, because we have
agreement.
Yeah, we've made an agreement that I'm going to.
Yeah, he needs to be there,
right?
You know, I think that's completely different and not the same thing at all. Now, if you're showing up with your kid and this game has already started, and in many sports you only have a small window, and if you get there past that, your kid can't play.
Yeah, that's true.
And
I never do that. My kids have never been late to a sporting event, like ever.
Yeah,
ever. Even there was one time I got in a car accident. My daughter needed to get picked up from her dance rehearsal, and I could see the building where I got in the accident. I could see the stupid building, and I was like, man. So I had to text my husband. I was like, okay, so I know you're in work in Edina, and I need you to come all the way back over here where we live because I got an accident and I could see the building, but I can't leave till the cops come. So the cop showed up and he's like taking the report, and you see my husband like drive past me, and he's like driving and he's looking at me and shaking his head like, girl,
yeah,
but just going to get, but she got picked up on time. Yeah. Like that was the goal, was she got picked up on time. Now, sort of in this discussion of, you know, are you always late? I felt like I had to dig into the idea that I am always too early to things, because I think sometimes that's as bad as showing up late to things.
No, it is not. Twyla, you did not just say that.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go there.
Oh my gosh, I need to hear.
A lot of my life I still run on bus schedule,
sure,
where I think I have to be like somewhere extra early. So a lot of times I'm dragging my kids and my family places where we get there and it's not open yet. We get there and it's like we're the very first people there. Now, mind you, I've made this such a part of our life that sometimes it benefits us. Like we were the first people at like at Disney every day. We were when we went to Disney World, we weren't just the first people, like, you know, with those people that get on magic hours. We were like the first. Like it was us and the employees. It was like us, the employees, and the gate. Like they almost let us in because they thought we worked there. Because it was like, didn't we see you guys yesterday at the door? We're like, yeah,
but that's a benefit,
right? Like, but see the it's a benefit, but at the same time, it was like I woke my kids up at like 5 a.m. at Disney World on vacation, so we could get dressed and have breakfast and get on the tram and get over there. Sometimes I feel like I take time away from us that should just be our lives lived, so that we're right, like we're early to, not just on time, but early to things.
Yeah, but that to me makes sense to get early to that specific example, because then you get in, there's not going to be a line, and it's all part of the experience. I mean, it's kind of fun. You're on vacation, you're going to have breakfast together.
Okay, then I have
get over
okay,
there.
then I have an everyday example.
Okay.
We routinely would show up early to I would routinely make my kids get up and come with me to run errands, and we would routinely like show up early before like the doors at Sam's open.
Well, how much early are we talking?
Like, I don't intend to be 15 minutes early, but
Sure.
15 minutes is a long time to sit around in the car and wait for Sam's to open.
Yeah, but then there's an opportunity to have a captive audience, to have some conversation.
That kids don't want to talk to me,
You
girl.
know?
Like,
You can go over your list.
Okay,
I don't see a downside to this.
I'm a little embarrassed that I make the kids so early to things sometimes that we have a constant rotation. Like we have a mom van, and in the van we keep like things to occupy them because we're too early to do things. So they have books and they have like papers and stuff that stay in the car all the time, because when we show up someplace, we already know it's like, well, mom got us here 15 minutes early. Mom got us here a half hour early. I'm gonna read my book. I'm gonna play cards. Like,
but look what they're doing. They're reading a book. They're playing cards.
But I feel guilty because they could have probably just been like asleep or something.
Doing what?
Like,
Sleeping? No.
They could have been living their lives the way they want to. And I'm just like, we have to be at the state park before the Rangers get there. Like I took them. I recently took my kids to the drive-in.
More of a positive.
Okay, I took my kids to the drive-in.
Yeah,
and we had never done it before. And the drive-in doesn't really start showing movies till it gets
dark. Sure.
And it was a first experience, so it wasn't really about getting a good place for the car. It was just about going.
Sure.
Okay, I showed up so early that we wound up sitting outside waiting for the movie for 2 full hours before the first movie started.
What? Did you not know what time it started?
I did, but I got paranoid about like getting lost and not getting stuck in a line.
Okay,
blah, blah, blah.
2 hours is a little excessive.
It was, and it was,
but that was a new experience, and it was far away.
Yeah, and it was dumb because once we got there, then it was like 2 full hours. Like, don't eat all your snacks now. Like the movie hasn't started yet, and then we were staying for 2 movies. So essentially, the first movie started at 9. The second movie doesn't start till like 11:30. So I'd had my kids here since like 6:37. They had been at the drive-in. Like we could have just camped.
Yeah. Yes, that specific example is overkill.
Yeah,
I can see
feel
a downside
like I do that
to
a lot. Like I'm like when they started saying, "Oh, you need to show up 3 hours before planes take off at the airport, just to make sure you get through security."
I don't think they've ever said 3 hours.
Yeah, they have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and honestly, when they first started saying it, I was like, rookies.
I'm gonna show up the day before.
Yeah, I mean, I would be there. Like we'd have a 9 a.m. flight. I'd be like, we need to leave for the airport at 5:30, and they're like, no, we don't. I'm like, yeah, because if we do that, then we don't need to. Like security is not even a security. It's just like walk on through. Like and then the kids are like exhausted. They're like, Mom, I'm like, we're so tired. I'm like, listen, but do we have to do that line? And like, I always make sure to point out like what we beat out later. Yeah. So I'm like, look at all that. There's 200 people in that line. There was like 6 when we got here. They're like, Mom, the lights weren't even on when we got here. So I feel like I have to do a little bit
of curbing it, but I still rather be early than late.
Okay. So
I'm just saying, to say that it's just as bad as being late is completely incorrect.
I'm trying to think of like the worst time when I was late, like where I was the most sort of mortified
by the hours, like
church.
Were you waiting for the other service to get out?
No, I went to church with when I first moved here, I didn't know anybody. So my friend, like I had a benevolent friend, took me to church with her. And her church is very community oriented, which most churches are, but they are very like, they know everybody in the congregation. Sure. So if somebody shows up and they don't know them, they kind of call them out.
Oh,
right. Wow. So we walked into church a little bit late, we kind of scooted in and we sat down, and the Reverend said, and I see we have some visitors today. And then he told us to stand up and introduce ourselves.
Is this because you were late?
I hope it's not. I think my understanding from her is that he would do that with everybody to welcome them. But when you're already late and you're already embarrassed and you've never been to the church before and you're like 18 years old, you don't want to have to get up and introduce yourself in front of like 200 people. And so, I wasn't the only new person. So my one friend got up and was like, "Hey, I'm so and so," and they sat back down. And I was just like, ditto. And I remember thinking, I remember being so embarrassed I never want to come back. And it was like, and it wasn't that they weren't welcoming at all. It's just that is the one thing I don't like. It's one thing for me to put myself as the center of attention. Sure. Like I'm a middle kid, I'm a glory hog, I'll do that. Yeah. But if you make me the center of attention, I don't like that.
I'm the same way, unless it's for work. you know, for work. I'll do like a TV segment about something.
Yeah.
I'll do, you know, what we do. You and I
And
work
you know
in
what?
radio.
We should talk about that. Just as a bit of a sidebar. People think it's nuts that we say things like we're not comfortable in crowds, that people are not comfortable around new people when we do things like TV or radio.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. Those things are actually really isolating when you're in them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you and I are recording this podcast right now. We're in a room. It's just the two of us.
Yeah.
So you can kind of like get rid of some of the stigma of like performing for an audience.
Because you're not. You're having a conversation.
And even on television, it's usually like a TV studio. It's, you know, it's whoever's in front of the camera. They're the host of the show.
Mm-hmm.
There's like, there might be 10 or 15 people total in a room like that. And so it's not like you're sitting in front of a crowd of like thousands, you know, or even hundreds. It's usually like a pretty small, you know, pretty well rehearsed out, you know, and it's just kind of like, it kind of goes by really quickly.
Yeah.
It's totally different than, you know, kind of stepping in front of a crowd of people, you know, and even that, like, I'll be honest, I'm odd that way. I'm not uncomfortable in front of crowds. But I am uncomfortable, like, having to socially connect with new people.
Yeah, I could speak in front of a bunch of people. I have no problem doing that.
Yeah, but don't ask me to introduce myself to that girl in the corner.
Yeah.
I'll cut my own hand off first.
But I'm getting better at it. I've been working on it.
Yeah, no,
I've been trying to connect with people more, and you know, when I'm at things, and even speak to people that I don't know. And part of that, and again, you and I have different lives from kind of most people because we've worked in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a writer in my community, people will recognize me, and I love to talk to them.
Yes, you do. You're good at that.
I love that. I'm
quick to lie. And
yeah.
say,
No, that's not me.
That's not me.
And I love that. I love that one-on-one interaction. I think what really gives me more of the anxiety is the people who I can tell they're looking and then whispering to their friend and kind of pointing, you know, and don't say anything. And I'm like, do I have something in my teeth? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I'm not big on that.
Then
I would rather if you think you know me, just come ask.
Yeah.
If I'm in the mood, I'll say so. If I'm not, I'm a lie.
Yeah. I love
so you know.
chatting and meeting, you know, new people. I love that. It's just, you know, again, like you said, when you're putting this, I mean, you're talking to somebody here who recently got rid of a Jeep Wrangler because I was tired of doing that wave. Every time, if you have a Jeep, if you don't know about the Jeep wave, if you have a Wrangler and you see somebody else on the road, you have to wave at each other. I hated it because I felt like it was drawing attention to me. Like people are always looking to see. And then it was this responsibility of keeping up the wave. And my stepson said, well, just stop doing it. I'm like, oh, so then everybody thinks I'm rude?
Yes, because remember, my life saying is what other people think of me is none of my business.
There's that Natalie. She didn't wave.
See,
she didn't do the Wrangler
and you
wave.
know what's funny? I think that kind of ties all the way back up to the idea of being late, which is funny to me because I said I don't show up early because I want to be respectful of people's time. I show up early so I can get in and get out. And so now that I understand that about myself, it makes it a whole lot simpler, you know, the idea of us doing things the way that we do them, you know, like, and I do try to be respectful of people's time because I want people to be respectful of my time.
Yeah.
But I think I try to plan and build out so much for, you know, how I use my time that I try to be really consistent.
Yeah, and you have, you know, we all have the friend where we know, and I had a friend who was late a lot. Like it was, you know, getting to be irritating.
Oh, we've all had one of those, yeah.
But I had a conversation with her. I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes I think twice about inviting you because I know you're going to be late. And it holds everyone else up. This isn't just you meeting me. If we have a lunch planned, everyone else now has to wait because we're not going to order food until you get there.
So you're really upfront. I'm really manipulative. I just start telling you that things start an hour earlier than because you're going to be 45 minutes late, which means you're going to be 15 minutes early, and now the problem is solved.
I am a lot harder, though, on my kids because I'm raising them. We're raising them to be adults, and we want to raise adults who are respectful
absolutely.
of someone else's time and to realize the world doesn't stop because you forgot something. You know, I want them to understand the domino effect and have more compassion for other people and their time.
No, you know what's funny? I think that's sort of the most you hit something right on the head that I always subscribe to. In terms of like when people are late or things come up or things, you know, happen. Because I am the way that I am and because I think that I value people more than I value, you know, sort of the circumstances around what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get bent out of shape by stuff like that.
Sure.
I always tell my friends, don't apologize if you're late. Don't apologize if you can't make it. Don't apologize if you have to cancel. Life happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to give a really wide leeway and berth for life happening.
Sure.
So it really does take a lot for me to get upset that you're late to the thing.
But the once in a while person is different from the habitual. And I think more what we're talking about is the person who's late
even
all
the
the
habitual
time.
person, I can sort of compartmentalize them and then go, okay, well, you know what? They're always late. So if it's something that's important, then I'm not going to invite them to this thing. Like if it's a reservation based thing, nah. If it's a house party, sure.
But then see, I feel
If
like we're
it's
doing them
movies-
in disservice. Because you're, like my one friend
see,
I was
it's
telling you
not-
about, she showed up on time for everything after that. So you know
Okay.
what? She always was capable of it.
Yeah, she just didn't do it.
She just wasn't, and she's the most kind-hearted, big-hearted individual, really, probably of everyone I know. It just, she just kind of needed that change of perspective because the way I presented it, it's not just me. It's 3 other people at lunch. There's sitters involved. There's, and it just all, and there are times when if there's an accident, we have no control to predict, but you know what? You live in the same community, you commute all the time. You know what traffic patterns are like. You know at certain times of day you're going to have to leave more time.
Yeah, that's true.
An accident you can't control. Traffic, to a degree, you can predict and kind of build it in.
Well, that's true.
But
I just don't care about. I'm sorry, I just don't care about y'all enough to do all that.
Yeah, I'm on a mission. I want everyone to be on time.
I appreciate, but
Then it's more organized.
but I appreciate that there's a thoughtfulness there in talking to somebody about that. I just don't. You know me. I don't.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not
because
even
I
about
love
confrontation.
her.
It's
I
just,
love her. If it was somebody that really I kind of didn't care that much about, I would have just stopped inviting them. But chances are I wouldn't have been inviting them anyways, unless it was somebody I really cared about.
Yeah, see, I mean, I love y'all, but it's not my business.
If
If you don't want to show up, then I'm just, then the bill is going to get split 4 ways, not
I
5.
thought it was an opportunity for growth, for her to kind of step it up. And I know there's things
appreciate
about
that.
that. I love when people tell me, something where I can maybe look at it a little bit differently and go, okay. Or I could look at it and go, nah, you full of crap. I'm not, no.
Now I'm waiting. I'm waiting to get all the emails from my friends that are like, well, girl, you to be showing up extra early.
Yeah.
Like you be showing up if I am not ready for company yet. So we'll see. So I guess in conclusion, we should ask, did we answer the question? Are you always late?
We have, and I can honestly say no.
No, I am chronically early, and I'm going to work on being more respectful of that for my children's sake. So, as always, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you think. Are you a late person? Do you know people that are late? Do you have strategies to keep yourself from being late? Like I set my clocks like 10 minutes early all the time to trick my kids into getting out the door on time. Let us know. Go to the Facebook page. Go to Matriarch Digital Media on Facebook. There is a send message option. Click on that and send a message to Twyla and Natalie and let us know what you think. Hey, while you're there, make sure you like the page as well so you can find out what's going on with Matriarch. You can find out more about our show and any upcoming events that we might be having as well. So thank you so much for listening, and we appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.